Hello and welcome. As we are getting ready to start a new year, I thought it'd be fun to kind of go back and revisit kind of like a highlight or an overview of brands and, in my opinion, how they did over the past year. So this is my version of your high school yearbook superlatives. So let's go ahead and get started. I'd love to hear all of your thoughts in the comments down below. So just a heads up, everybody in my house is sick except for me, so it might take me a little longer to get back to respond. So just a heads up. And let's go ahead and get started. And I wanted to start off with one of my favorite releases this year. And this was my most nostalgic release for the year. Anybody guess? That was actually the Bobbi Brown 90s grunge collection. I love how they did this launch. I think the Bobbi Brown brand, their line in general, works really well with the aesthetic. And I thought the products, they were kind of like modern retakes on some of those, but we had some dual-ended eye sticks where we've got the eye crayon on one side, the blunted end, and then we have the sharpened eyeliner kohl on the other end, and they come in a variety of different colors. These are fantastic. I love them. The only thing missing here is we don't have a sharpener for this, so that I think was kind of an oversight there. And then we had these like cheek oils, lip and cheek oils, that I thought really gave a nice, they worked really well with the eye crayons. So I loved this collection. I thought it was fun. There were a couple other items that I did not pick up from the collection. Like I believe there was a highlighter, but I picked up, a lot of the sticks and all three of the cheek oils, and I love them. I think they are fantastic, and it really did bring me back to my youth with those. So, I just thought it was a great one. Best new brand, for me, it was Sarah Creel. Now, if you're not familiar with Sarah Creel, they did recently launch at Sephora, but prior to that, they launched this summer on their own website. And Sarah Creel, if you're not familiar with who she is the one who started Victoria Beckham's beauty brand with her. She's the one who did the Estee Lauder collaboration with Victoria Beckham. She's worked with a ton of major brands like Tom Ford and so forth over the years. And she wanted to start her own line that really focused on women over 40 and some of their concerns with makeup and how those products, your traditional makeup products now react a little bit differently on skin that's maturing, or you have different things that you have concerns about, such as fine lines and wrinkles and so forth. So her line is really well curated, and it's really geared towards women who have maturing skin. And I have loved every single product that I have tried from there. There are a couple things that are just too deep for me, like the sunscreen, and honestly the Face Flex concealer, but if you have a shade match in there, that thing is fantastic. It's just a little too dark for me. But my favorite lip balm now, this is the Adults Are Talking. I love it. She's got a fantastic lip primer, which I think is kind of like a game changer kind of product for when you have fine lines on your lips. And she's got some really great products. So it's still a small line, it's growing. I can't wait to see where they go, but I would have to say that this was the best new brand for 2024. Now, my most disappointing brand for 2024, it was Guerlain. So very sorry to say, because Guerlain has been one of my favorites for so long. Even when we weren't really getting too many releases aside from lipsticks from them, they were still, right up there for me. But this year they did a few things that they've really irked me. So not only do we have the issue with our lipstick cases, which by the way, still absolutely beautiful cases, but our new cases are almost exactly the same size as the old ones, but they've changed the size just enough that you can't use your old lipsticks with them or your new refills in the old cases. So that is kind of sketchy. There's not that much of a weight difference, in my opinion, to make it worth that. So that was an issue. And I think that alone is enough to make it the most disappointing brand for me. But we had a few other issues. Their new lip glosses, again, these have a very strong honey scent. I love the Honey Glow lip balms, or the Bee Glow lip balms. These are a stronger fragrance to me. And my biggest issue is you can't leave these side down. They do leak. So you can't throw this in a handbag without the risk of it leaking. So that was another put down. And then to top things off, the meteorites. They changed the fragrance. They changed the color a little bit as well. So our new light shade is warmer than our old one. And although I prefer the older shade to the new light shade, that's not that big of a deal. They also reduced the size that you're getting for your money. Again, not that big of a deal. Keeps happening everywhere. My biggest issue is they changed the fragrance. So now it smells more powerful to me. It's a stronger scent. And we have a very strong, scent with a lot of sandalwood in here. And it's too much. It's too strong. Their whole terracotta line, like the terracotta blushes that came out, I love the colors. I love the formula. Again, the fragrance is so strong and powerful. I feel like they really amped up their fragrance in all of their products. And that terracotta fragrance has never been my personal favorite. So now to have so many products with that fragrance amped up, it makes them almost unusable for me. So for me, Guerlain ended up being the most disappointing brand. And you know, with Givenchy's big mistake with switching their powder, that was kind of hard to beat, but Guerlain beat that. Now, a brand that has been disappointing to me the past few years has been Chanel, but I actually voted for them as my biggest comeback brand for the year. So I think they've taken the biggest strides to kind of correct some of their earlier mistakes, to bring in some new life. Now, a lot of their changes, they're not for everyone. They definitely seem to be gearing towards a younger demographic in general. They've got some brighter, more fun, playful colors, which is not going to agree with everyone. But I do think that they are, bringing back some staples and so forth as well, such as the single eyeshadows. And they've got some really classic colors in there, like the Brontalpa and so forth. So they've kind of got something for everyone. But one of my favorite things is the fact that they reformulated those terrible blushes again. So they are now still not as good as the original formulation, but they're better than the ones that came out in 2021. And, they're close to the original. So I'm very happy that they seem to be correcting that, and they're really making strides to kind of breathe new life into the brand. And I would love to still see more of their classic aesthetic coming out, but I'm so glad to see them experimenting with more colors. We had so many repetitive red palettes there. It's nice to see something new and different. So I'm really happy with the direction Chanel is taking overall. Yes, there are some misses, but they've had a lot of hits as well. So I think, for me, they're the biggest comeback brand. Other ones I'd like to kind of give an honorable mention to would be Armani and YSL. I feel like for years they were pretty stagnant. We didn't really see too many new releases, or those that we did see really kind of went under the radar, or were mostly just like a foundation or a lipstick here or there. But this year, I feel like they've really, took strides to bring out some new lines, like their liquid highlighters and blushes, the YSL eyeliners, and so forth. So I think they're working on their comebacks right now, and I can't wait to see the new YSL blushes. Armani's blushes are great. So, we've got some new things coming out from there that's keeping those brands more current and exciting, and I can't wait to see where they go in 2025. So I'd like to give those brands, YSL and Armani, honorable mentions for comeback. Best packaging. So this was really close between Viseart, because they have gone more sustainable with their packaging. They've reduced the mirror from their étendue packaging. They've made things even more customizable. But Danessa Myricks, they won. She won with this Lightwork Volume 6 palette. So, this thing is awesome. So you've got a little mirror here. You can keep this clipped on here. You can use this as a massive palette. This comes off. Or you can pull these out. You can just take one of these, put the mirror on top here. You've got a little palette to go. It's magnetic. That's fantastic. These shades, you can pop these out. They are magnetic as well. You can rearrange them. Also fantastic. In addition to being able to do a single palette, you can also take all three of these out of here and stack them up. I mean, this is the best packaging design. You can have whatever you want, however you want to store it in your drawers or take it with you. You know, it's the most versatile. So this packaging I just think is fantastic. I can't wait to see more from here. This palette itself, if you like color, you know, it's fantastic. Plus she's got some great nudes in here as well. You know, I absolutely love this palette, but the packaging here, it's just amazing. So I hope we see more packaging like this in 2025. Next, we're on most repetitive brand. And I have to say this, Dior kind of makes a little bit of an honorable mention here because some of the eyeshadow palettes, you know, they were kind of repetitive with ones that we've seen in previous years. But overall, they had so many other things that they did not make this category. So Tom Ford, which has probably made this category for the past few years, I think they have been the most repetitive brand in 2024. Yes, we had some new things like the Cafe Creme blush. I love that cream blush. We had some new palettes, but if you take a look at the palettes, a lot of them are repetitive color stories from things that we've seen before, or, you know, maybe even mixing two different quads together. We see like Body Heat, let's face it, or one that looks just like Body Heat all the time. So I'd love to see some new and different color stories. And yeah, even the two new creme quads that are coming out in January, they look gorgeous, but they still do, you know, kind of look like palettes we've seen before. You know, the Olive Smoke doesn't look that different from Velour Khaki. So yeah, I think overall his brand has been pretty repetitive with the color stories and even some of the formulas here that do need some improvement. We've gone up and down with all of the different formulas. I think they're really trying to figure out which formula is going to work best. I think the creme's great. I still love that classic wet and dry, and apparently the new rose formula is similar to the wet and dry, but a newer version of that. So didn't try the rose quad, but I'd like to try that formula. So hopefully that'll come out in a cooler tone palette this year. But those are my thoughts for most repetitive. I think Tom Ford probably wins that. But I have to say, they did have some good wins this year, like bringing back the lipsticks, which, again, repetitive shades. I'd love to see them repeat Sugar Glider, but, you know, they did have some great products as well, but a lot of repetitive color stories over the past few years. Now, as I mentioned, Dior has had some repetition as well, but they made the category for most releases. And I think, I didn't count them up, but I feel like out of all the luxury brands, Dior has released the largest number of products than any other brand. I mean, if you think about it, we've got, not only do we have like the spring and the fall and the holiday collections and summer and so forth, but we have them for Backstage, we have them for the Rouge Dior, and we have some random products in between, and, you know, like the Miss Dior collection and so forth. So there have just been so many products. And I mean, just even look at Backstage. We have more products released in Backstage this year than we usually do. You know, during the summer, we had the 3 Backstage blushes, plus the lip glows, plus the, I forget what else, the lip oils and so forth. You know, so we're having multiple colors of, you know, multiple products being released from Dior, plus a variety of different collections. So I feel like they won for the most number of releases. And while that's a good thing, because it does keep things fresh and interesting, I would like to see them slow down a little bit and focus a bit more. You know, their eyeshadows are still only mid. So, you know, ever since they redid them, I'd love to see something more similar to the previous formula in the eyeshadows. And I'd love to see them take some time to focus on improving some of those things instead of continually rushing things out. Like those purple blushes that they had, hard pan, those shouldn't have come out, you know, especially not 2 of them. You know, we had the one in the Rouge Dior line, the lavender shimmer one, and then, which I think was called Signature Shimmer, and then the Backstage one. Both of them were hard pan. Both of them did not launch at the same time, so there was time to go back and reevaluate that, in my opinion, or hold that launch completely. So I'd like to see them take a little bit more time and put a little bit more thought in some of these products before the launches. The most exciting releases this year for me, the collections that I looked forward to the most, were from Addiction Tokyo. And, you know, it's a relatively new brand to me. You know, they started here in the US towards the end of 2023. and I've been loving them. You know, before that, I purchased a few items from Japan. I love the formulas. So happy to have them here in the US now. I'd love to see them be able to expand to the rest of the world. That'd be great. Their formulas are just fantastic. And I feel like, you know, they released their quads this year, which are permanent, but they had so many great, you know, limited edition releases as well. And part of them, you know, like part of the winter one didn't even make it here to the US, but I have been so excited for all of their launches. I think their color stories and the actual theme or inspiration behind the collections has been very inspiring and thought-filled. So I really have appreciated, you know, where they're going with everything. So I can't wait to see what they do in 2025. But I have to say that their collections were definitely some of my favorite throughout the year. And they were ones that they garnered the most interest for me in advance. So really, really excited about them. Now, the most consistent brand, one of the brands that I feel like if I go and I buy something from them, you know, it is such a small chance of having a disappointment that I feel very safe and comfortable with them. That brand for me is SUQQU. Now, Cle de Peau also ranks up there with them, but they didn't have any major releases this year. So they lost this spot to SUQQU. And, you know, SUQQU had some great releases this year. I really loved their winter collection. They actually made it to my yearly favorites. Their Moisture Glazed lipstick this year was great. They did have some, you know, a little bit more boring collections as well, but you know, what's boring to me might not be boring to somebody else, and I feel like you need that balance throughout the year. But what I have to say is the quality of all of their products has been fantastic. I have not had a dud this year from them that I can think of. You know, everything has performed well. The formulas were great. They brought out their new blushes, and they are an improvement over the Pure Color blushes, in my opinion. So I think they are definitely on a roll, and I really feel comfortable saying that this is a brand where you can go and pick out any product from that brand and the quality is there. You know, you got to get the right color match, of course, but the quality is there. You can't go wrong with the formula. So for me, you know, they are my most consistent brand, and I'm very happy with what they've done so far. And I can't wait to see their new products, like their new lipsticks coming out next month. All right, and my last category here is a brand I really love, but I'd like to see more from them. They're just kind of playing it safe a little bit, and that is Prada. So Prada, you know, they really wowed me when they came out with their eyeshadows. You know, at first, you know, the way they look in the pan and so forth, it's like, you know, they look kind of bright and scary. They are fantastic. I love the formulas. I love how they mix the formulas in the pans. You know, the colors, you can make them soft or deep. You know, they are so versatile, and I absolutely love them. Their lipsticks, I love their lipsticks. And I love how they take time in between all of their releases to really perfect things. But what I'd like to see more from them, I'd like to see either more color stories of what's already coming out. A lot of their launches, like the new lipsticks that are coming out, they're re-promotes. You know, their holiday collection was essentially re-promoting shades in a new palette. You know, those shades are in their permanent palettes, just kind of mixed and matched. So I would like to see a little bit more innovation from them and actually bring out some new shades. And whether you bring out new products, I'd love to see blushes and so forth from them. But, you know, I'm happy that they take time with all of those things. But I feel like while they're taking their time perfecting formulas for other product categories, they could totally be releasing new lipstick shades and new eyeshadow shades. So I'd love to see a little bit more from them, especially when they have a limited edition collection. I'd like to see fewer re-promotes and more, whether it's limited edition or permanent, I'd like to see more shades. So that's my thought there. But I think Prada is they're one of my favorite brands. So I haven't been disappointed with them at all overall. So I hope this was fun. I'd love to know your thoughts on all of the makeup and the brands and how they've done over the past year, what you're looking forward to seeing in 2025. And thank you so much for tuning in. And I hope you're having a wonderful holiday season. I'll see you very soon. Have a great day.